It is Indiana in the Morning, presented as always by First Commonwealth Bank here on WCCS, AM 1160 and FM 101.1. And on the line with us today, Emil DeAndreis, who is the author of a book called Hard to Grip, a memoir of youth, baseball, and chronic illness. And wait till you hear this story. Wait till you read this story. Not only was he a wonderful baseball player, but he is and remains a terrific writer. Good morning.
Well, thanks for having me, Tom.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you on the air with us today. The book is called Hard to Grip, and in your case, it literally became hard to grip a baseball right after your college baseball career ended, and you were on the way to trying to do something as a professional baseball player. Capsulize for us what it was like for you to be diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes as a shock to everybody. There's a part in my book that sort of gets into some of the statistics about rheumatoid arthritis, and I say, 1.5 million people have the disease and 0.0 million people know how they got it. So that's just the nature of this disease. It's very mysterious. So everybody, gets a little shell-shocked by it when they get diagnosed. But for me, I think there was a little bit, there was more complexity to it just because I was a 23-year-old male, and rheumatoid arthritis typically affects older women. So I was kind of in the physical prime of my life, sort of, looking forward to, a future of competitive baseball and professional baseball. And I sort of had the next few years of my life at least figured out. And then this came. And so, it was definitely a shock. And I did go through a phase of denial kind of as a result.
And that denial is just wonderfully detailed for us in the book. I know it must have been extremely painful for you to look back on those days, those initial days when the diagnosis came, and the uncertainty about how you were going to approach it. Those struggles, do they continue today, or has the acceptance point? Was there a point where you could say, "Okay, I accept I have this, and I can now start to move forward in a different direction than I thought I was going to go, but at least I'm moving"?
Yeah, there did come to be a point where I accepted the disease, and basically it came when the disease was so strong there was no denying it anymore. And I kind of shot myself in the foot a little bit, because during this phase of denial where I kept telling myself, I don't have this disease, it's something else, I refused to take the medications that they had prescribed for me. And so because if I took the meds, I thought that was me admitting to myself I had this disease. But what that did was it allowed the disease to spread, without any sort of barrier, whatsoever. So that the early stages of my disease, I really experienced sort of the wrath of it, and there come to be a point where you're waking up and you can't brush your teeth or tie your shoelaces, where you realize this is something that is with me now, and it's time to sort of establish a new life with it.
And you write very meaningfully, I think, about trying to hide the fact of the disease from those around you when you were denying it to yourself initially, but also afterwards, after you had come to the point where you said, all right, I'm really going to have to deal with this. You still tried to make it seem as if you did not have the disease. Maybe that's not putting it correctly, but you did not open up to others about it. Talk about that whole process of being able to finally release that so that others could relate to you as you are now.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, it just wasn't the kind of thing that I felt I wanted people to know about me. And so, because what it did was it took this person who I was, or who I thought I was at least, kind of, a man, a strong, able-bodied person. And I'd always sort of prided myself on being, on the more masculine side of things. And so here I am thinking I'm this person and getting a disease that's kind of just taking me and turning me upside down into the opposite. And suddenly I was a 23-year-old that, couldn't beat anybody in an arm wrestle, or, I couldn't strike anybody out anymore. And so, a lot of my identity had been stripped from me, and it was a kind of end to a career that I was not really all that proud of. I would have been more okay with needing Tommy John surgery, or just blowing my arm out, or having just a regular sports injury that ended my career. That was something you could kind of like, people would understand, and you wouldn't have to explain yourself, and you wouldn't get as much sympathy for. Whereas the disease that I was dealing with, I did not like the sympathy that was headed my way if I told people what was really going on in my body.
Emil DeAndreis is our guest. Hard to Grip is the name of his book, and it talks about his struggles with rheumatoid arthritis and how they put a premature end to his baseball career. But, Emil, one of the things I have to compliment you, you wrote a hilarious book. I mean, for the seriousness of the subject and how you had to face this terrible, terrible disease, you really have used humor, and I assume you've used it in your own life to help you to deal with the disease.
Yeah, and that's something I've discussed a little bit, kind of in retrospect, because I started writing this thing when I was in like 2011, so the disease was still relatively fresh at the time, and a lot of the things that you read in this book were written in real time. So there's not that much that I wrote in retrospect. It was just written throughout the course of 5 years with this disease, and so when I think back as to why a lot of the stories are written with humor, and I think at the time I was using it as a mechanism to sort of get through things, but I didn't really realize it then. I just sort of have realized, since then that, that was kind of my way of making light of an otherwise, pretty gloomy situation.
Emil, of course, is a baseball player. I imagine first and foremost in your mind you're still a baseball player, but you coach. You also teach writing at San Mateo College in California, so the gift that you have as a writer, I don't know that it compensates for losing the ability to throw a baseball the way you'd like to, but certainly it's something that has enabled you to translate your story to so many people. One of the things that I enjoy about the book as well is your relationship with the woman who became your wife, Kendall, starting before the disease when you were in college in Hawaii, and just watching her and the way that she is able to relate to you. You certainly found a good companion, a good mate. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, like you said, that's one of the things, she is one of the things, in addition to others, that has been, like you said, enabled as a result of this disease in a weird way. Because, I met my future wife in a college English class, which is all documented in the book. And if I was to go to Belgium and pitch professionally in Europe, which is what I was set up to do, our relationship, would likely have gone a different way. Yeah. But because I had a disease and my career was kind of cut short abruptly, our relationship was able to continue, and that turned into, years of love and eventually a marriage, and we're very happily married right now. So that's when it, like you said, also my writing was enabled by this disease, and a career as a professor. So doors definitely were opened, and I'm thankful for that. No, and the fact that it was a cross-country relationship, you're in California, she's in South Carolina, shows you how special a relationship it was, and that certainly is to be celebrated. One of the guys I wanted to catch up with you on during our time together is your buddy Charlie. Of course, here we are. We're just outside of Pittsburgh. We're also just outside of Altoona, where Charlie played for the Altoona Curve as he played Double-A baseball. Where's Charlie these days? Charlie, this is his first year outside of professional baseball, so he played all the way. I think the story ends, this is kind of crazy. The book ends with Charlie, his name was Charlie Cutler, and he played for your Altoona Curve, I think, in 2011, 2012-ish. I actually came out and saw him play at your beautiful, beautiful stadium. Isn't that nice? Oh, man, I wish I was there more often. But so the book ended with him getting an opportunity to go play big league camp for the Angels, and this I think was in 2014. And it was the craziest thing. He got through big league camp with the Angels and was playing AAA for the Angels. He's just like one
thing away from being in the pros. He was hitting 390 in like 90 or 100 at bats, and they called him into the office and they let him go. And he was as floored by it as anyone else. And I think it was because they kind of saw that he was getting a little old, and they didn't want to string him along if they didn't see a future for him in their organization. So they cut him while he was hot, so maybe someone would pick him up. And no one did pick him up, and so he played independent ball for 2 years, and that was that. And now he's living in San Francisco. We hang out all the time. We go fishing just like we did in the book, and he's raising his daughter. He has like a 10-month-old daughter.
You know, fishing turned into a bit of therapy for you. You of course enjoyed it before being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, but when you are able to find an outlet like that, that certainly seemed, as I was reading the book, to be one of those real indicators of something that's true medicine.
Yeah, especially for Charlie. I mean, Charlie, in the book, I go through all the different like obstacles Charlie's willing to go through in order to be able to sit himself somewhere in the quiet and fish all day. He'll do anything to get himself that kind of peace.
The book is hard to grip. Emil DeAndreis has been with us here this morning on Indiana in the Morning here on WCCS. Emil, you are a baseball coach. You have coached younger players, high school players, and you also are able to coach at San Mateo. As those relationships have become, and as you have evolved as a baseball coach, talk about how rheumatoid arthritis has become a part of the conversation with your young players.
Gosh, it's crazy. Only since this book has come out is that even on the radar. And so I just finished my 8th year of coaching, and I don't think anybody up until this book came out knew that I had rheumatoid arthritis. And I run the fall weights at the fall weight lifting program at the high school and everything like that. And I have the weight regimen, and I do the demos and how they're supposed to lift the weights and stuff. And I just kind of have always masked it, or chosen a day where my body was feeling good to give some of the tutorials and stuff. So I've always kind of kept it from them, and not because I'm hiding. It's just it didn't seem like something that they needed to know. It didn't seem like something that really added any value, or didn't seem all that necessary. Now that the book is out, a lot of my players have read it, and it's added a level of understanding about me, their coach. But it doesn't really change anything about how I approach them. I've always been the same kind of guy ever since I got this disease. As a coach for them, I don't really care about what ended my career. I don't really talk about what ended my career, but I do stress to my players just the importance of loving the game of baseball and appreciating it while it's there.
The book is Hard to Grip by Emil DeAndreis, who's been with us here this morning. You working on something now? Yeah,
I'm kind of just pushing my way through trying my attempt at a novel. I set a word goal this summer to meet, and I just about met it, but then my semester just started this week, so it kind of put me back a little bit. But yeah, it involves baseball. It also involves a career ended early, but this one I'm thinking about the career ending because of the yips instead of rheumatoid arthritis. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, we'll look forward to that one coming out. I want to thank you for joining us here this morning on Indiana in the Morning.
Thank you for having me. This is great.